Good Wednesday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dimitri Pargamonic. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Great. You want to start with the disclaimer?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I and Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor or call your broker. That's what they're there for, to give you advice, provide you with guidance.
Excellent.
There's the disclaimer. Let me share my screen. And anyone joining us for the first time, Will and I, we do this show every morning to help answer any questions you may have about Market Chameleon tools, the data, analytics. If you have questions or you want to bring up a strategy or something unusual you've seen, you could come on the show, ask your question live. We provide a link to Zoom. If you go into Zoom, there's a button, raise your hand, click on it. You don't have to turn on your video camera. Once we let you in, everybody could hear you, but you could ask your question live and direct. If you prefer to type in your question, you can use the live chat on YouTube. Type it in. Will's watching it. He'll read the questions back to me. While we're waiting for questions to come in, we're going to take a couple minutes, take a look at the pre-market report. These are stocks that are trading in pre-market hours. Let's see if we could get some insights from there. If we don't get any questions, I'll just navigate to a different part of the website, take a look at a report, see if we could get some insights on that. So let's get started with the pre-market report, and Will, you let me know if any questions come in.
Yep.
So this here pre-market report, these are stocks that are trading today in the pre-market hours. We have a list of our most active stocks, a list of our biggest percentage gainers and biggest percentage decliners. Down here, I see 87 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 40 on the percentage decliners. And from this perspective, looks like a slightly bullish bias at the open. If we look at the list, there are a lot of stocks in there. Some are going to be small cap stocks. Some will be ETFs, leverage products. It could be a closed-end fund. It could be a preferred stock, a right, a unit, anything that is listed on a major U.S. exchange. And if it's trading in pre-market hours and it meets our thresholds, it could make this list. So we want to narrow down the list to a smaller group of stocks to get better insights. And as an example, we'll use the filters here above. This one in ETF. If you drop it down, you get a list of different ETFs to choose from. And when you choose one of these ETFs, the list below will get filtered by the stocks in that ETF. So you could see there are sector ETFs in there, and then broad-based index ETFs and SPY. This first one, that's the S&P 500 ETF. Let's click on that, and the list below gets filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF, which are the S&P 500 constituents. And now we could see what's trading in pre-market hours in that ETF. And we see here 9 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 4 on the decliners list. So that's slightly bullish bias at the open from that perspective. We still have some earnings, I guess, coming in, because if you look on top here, these are the symbols, the price and the percentage change from yesterday's close. So these are up in the pre-market hours, the volume. But if you look at this column here, the alerts, you'll get an E or N. The E stands for an earnings alert. Either they reported yesterday after the market close or just before the market opened in the pre-market hours. The stock could be reacting to it. The N stands for news. So if you hover over it, you'll get the headline news. And if you click on the headline, it'll take you over to the news article. So it was about a couple minutes into it, Will.
Yeah, we did have some questions, Steve.
Okay. All right. Let's take the questions.
The first was from a new chameleon who jumped on today, Raj. He says, is there a way to look at what stocks, he asked benefit due to seasonality, but is there a seasonality functionality within Market Chameleon you want to show, Raj?
So what's the question?
The exact question is there a way to look at what stocks benefit due to seasonality?
Okay. Yeah, so we could take a look at a seasonality screener. I'll go up here under the stocks. And I'm going to come over here to the right-hand side here, seasonality. There's a screener here. And this one looks at a list here. These are looking at the different symbols, right? And it is giving you seasonality statistics by calendar month. Okay, so as a screener, we normalize it to calendar month. So January, February, March, April, and then we look back. These are the number of years. And over to the right, it gives statistics for how this particular stock performed for the calendar month of January using 11 years, right? This one, February, this goes back 10 years. And if you wanted to see what the stock is, if you click on this little informational sheet, it'll bring you up. Like, here's Agilent, and you got all this information, so you don't have to leave the screener if you're just looking for some quick information, what it does. You could see here it has some fundamental data in there, stuff about earnings and so forth. But I'm going to close this for a second. And you can narrow down this list. Let's do it by calendar month. So we just finished February. If we select, let's say, March, it'll narrow down the list for calendar March, right? So now we're only looking at March. And I'm going to just let me narrow it down more. We could do it by maybe market cap. Let's do it over 50 billion. Let's stop there. Okay. So Apple on the top of the list, I think this is sorted alphabetically, right? So Apple made the top of the list, and now we could kind of see, well, what did it do in March, right? And we can screen by the stats as well. Okay, but let's first go over how did Apple tend to perform in the calendar month of March. So this is history, right? This is looking at what it did historically. And 70% of the time in the month of March, Apple, from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, was positive. Okay, 30% of the time, the stock was down in the calendar month of March. On average, what was the average? So if we take the average returns, each March, if we took the average return, on average, it gained 2%. The median return, which is the return right in the middle. So if we took all 10 observations and we said, well, what's the median return in the middle? That's 1.4%. We do that because the average can get skewed. If it had 1 year where it went way up, that average will get skewed. So the median return, 1.4%. The best over here, the best return it had in the calendar month was 12.7%. The worst drawdown, 7%. So this is, remember, for the entire month, it's only looking from the start of the month to the end, right? So that's the return from the start of the month, or basically, wherever the closing of the February, the day of the close, February to this last day of March close. The standard deviation of the returns was 6%. And this is basically saying, if we took the average, how much did the returns fluctuate around the average? So it's important because if you had zero standard deviation, right? If no standard deviations, if standard deviation is zero, that means every month it was 2%. The higher the standard deviation, the more the returns fluctuated around the average. And then this sharp is just taking the return divided by the standard deviation. Okay, these are giving you absolute moves, and that's more for, you want to see the volatility, right? How much on average did it move up or down? Okay, so you could see here the absolute, and you could narrow these down. Again, you know, these are historicals, but it gives you some insights because you can also just compare like assets to see how they perform versus each other. I think we could just do even like, let's see SPY. So this is SPY, the S&P 500. You could see the calendar month of March. 60% of the time it was up, 40% lower. These are the average returns. So let me just and look, you could do any these columns, you know, for percent positive, you know, you could keep filtering it down. Average returns, you could filter, you know, above 2.5%, median return. So you could keep filtering these down if that's what you're looking for. You know, I think I got it down to 19. So I filtered out average returns above 2.5%, median returns above 2.5%, 70% of the time those positive, and so forth. So let's take a look. Maybe Johnson & Johnson. For example, I could go here under tools, seasonality, and you could see here we're coming up March. So here we had actually three months it was down already, Johnson. You know, so you want to go and check what's going on there, because just because it did it in the past doesn't mean it's going to do it again. You know, these are just historical stats, but it looks like right here, you know, March tended to be one of its, let me see, you know, one of its best one. Well, in October. So, you know, there you go. So January, February was not a good month. So take a look at what's going on in that stock, you know, because I think January for the market was a good month, right? So for at least the month of January, we were up. So you want to take a look at that stock, but that's one way to use the screener to filter down stocks if you're looking for historical seasonal stats.
Perfect. We had a question from another. You there?
Yep.
From Joe. He was asking, hi, I have two questions. Is it possible to screen stocks bouncing off a 200-day moving average? And is it possible to screen high volume options and IV 52-week also? So I guess he's looking for screeners relative to a moving average and how you screen for high option volume and IV.
Okay. As far as screen, so I'll go to the first one over here. If you go to the stock screener, there is so right now I'm on the stock screener, and down below you do have different tabs of data. All right, so this is the summary data, and you're looking at the moving averages here. So here are moving averages and different ways to compare. So I think you're looking at what was it, the 20-day? Let me see. So there's 20-day versus 50-day moving average. Let me see. I thought these would be in percentages. Let me see something here. Here it is. So you're looking at just the stock under technical. If you're looking at just the stock and where it is relative to the 20-day moving average, so you have them here, right? So this is how far away. I think they're doing construction right above me, so sorry if you hear that. I'm right on the top floor, and right above me, I think that they're doing something. But if you're looking at where the stock is currently versus 20-day moving average, over here, it shows percentage wise how far it is from its 20-day moving average. And I believe you could screen that. Let me see here. Here, percentage away from 20. So let's just say you want it anywhere, above any positive. Let's just say any positive. Right. So that means it has to be above its 20-day moving average. So you could see here, the percentage it is from its 20-day moving average. So there was like 3,262 out of 11,088 that are trading currently above its 20-day moving average, but you could keep filtering that down if you want to.
So you can do it off the 20, and it looked like he was asking about the 200-day moving average. It doesn't look like it looked like 250, right?
Yeah, there was a 250. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I thought you said 20. So 250, let's just say any positive above the 250. So this is looking at the 250 right now.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And the other part of the question was high option volume and
so I think we could even do it from here. So as far as option volume, we could set it to relative, right? So what's high? It has to be above its average. So we could do, we could say the option volume today, what do we want to say is high? Is about 5,000, right? And let's say that on a relative basis, it's 2 times its daily average, right? So I'm going to do that. So now what we did was we said, okay, the option volume has to be at least 5,000 contracts today. And today's volume is 2 times greater than its average daily volume, right? So because we have to define what high is. So, you could do that with the filters. And here, let me see if I go to the options, here we have the options volume, AZN, LIN. You can see here that this is the options volume yesterday. We're not open yet. This is yesterday's close. And this is its relative option volume. So AZN traded close to 18,000 option contracts yesterday. And that's 2.4 times its average daily volume. Okay, so that we can do that right from here. So far you got the stock's above its 250-day moving average, any positive. The option volume has to be greater than 5,000, and the relative option volume has to be above 2. So that's what I did, but obviously you could, play around with it, make it even higher. So now I narrowed it down to 21. Change this to 10,000 contracts and relative option volume 3. So now we got here low. You can see here, these are higher option volume, higher relative. And here the moving average is above the 250. Wait, let me see. Sorry, that's not it. Here. The moving averages are above 250. What was the other one? The other
the other part of the question was
the option volume, and then
the high option volume and IV. I guess comparing it to, he's like IV 52 week, I guess, but whatever you can compare that IV metric to.
All right. So let me see. I believe it's in here. I think we could do it from here as well. Let me see where I put that. So volatility, IB30 rank. So if you want to do like an IB30 rank, that will compare it to its 52-week level, right? So whenever you say IB rank, would say, there, we'll do 75. That means 75% of the last 252 days, the implied volatility was below where it is today, right? So this would be 3. So we narrowed it down to 3 because I still have these other criteria. See, selected. So over here, these would be the higher ones, IB ranks. So you could see here, these are the IB ranks. Or we could go the other way and say below 25. So these would be IVs, which are lower, right? These are the IB ranks. So these are the implied vols, right? 30.4 and 21% means that 21% of the last 252 days, the IV was below 30.4 and 79% of the IVs were higher than 30.4. Okay, so it depends how you use that filter. So let's say we even, let's say you need an IV like at least 30, above 30. So I'm going to select that. So here we go. Now we got 7 stocks. We filtered down from almost 12,000. So here's what we did. We gave it a relatively high option volume. We said that the stock has to be above its 250-day moving average, and that the implied volatility has to be above 30, and the IV rank is below 25%. And then using those filters, we narrowed it down to 7 stocks that fit that criteria out of 11,888.
Hey, D, just to confirm, this is from the general stock screener, correct?
Yes. So this would be under screener stocks right there.
Awesome.
Yeah, so all of you guys could do that right now.
All right, we did have a question relative to screening from Michael McCrae.
Yeah.
Interesting how we had all these screening questions, but I guess the questions led to other questions. Where was Mike?
Okay.
Mike was asking, on the interactive charts, is there a way to check percent overestimated on a 2 or 3 standard deviation move?
On interactive percent, I mean, I'm not sure I understand that. Is there a symbol?
Maybe if you want to dig deeper into that question, you can send us an email, support@MarketChameleon.com, or we could get you. There's not much time to get on live today, but maybe tomorrow, if you wanted to come ask that live tomorrow, what chart you're actually looking at, or what screener, or how you want it, what you're trying to really screen for, just email support@MarketChameleon.com. Let us know either way.
Yeah. Because if I'm not sure which chart he's looking at, so not exactly sure if I could answer that question.
All right. Last thing was brought up by one of our most regulars, Mike, the mayor, was asking about a April 6th expiration in Roku. And I drew a blank. It happens to be a Thursday. Any guesses why there's a Thursday expiration?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know off the top of my head too. Fortunately, Swami answered it right. It's actually the 7th is Good Friday. So it's a holiday. That's why you have an expiring option on a Thursday.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah,
okay.
That was a question.
So that would be, that would be the case for all of
the whole option. I started to look on, and every option series expires on April 6th. So
right. Okay.
There you go. One less day of trading in April, I guess, because of an exchange holiday.
Yep.
All right, well, D. Awesome job. We're at 9:25. Unless you have anything else in the last couple minutes
Uh,
before the bell goes off and people start trading?
No, I just was, thanks everyone for the questions. Everybody stay safe out there. Have a great trading day. Hope to see you guys tomorrow.
All right. Trade in peace, chameleons. Awesome job, D. Bye.